So, Deliverance, I read last year for the first time, and I kind of want to read it again soon. This might be a good time of year to do it. Kind of takes place over 3 days in September, and I mean, it's October now, but I mean, it's pretty close. So this is a scene early in the book. If you don't know anything about the book, these guys set out to get away from their kind of boring city life jobs, go out into onto the river for a canoe trip for a couple nights. You know, just to experience nature and kind of get out there. Stuff like that. And so here's them. They've left the city. They're driving out to where they're going to put in to the water. And James Dickey is a poet. Was a poet. And so like the writing is just very, very good. And you can read it pretty much any passage out of this book probably and be able to appreciate it on its own without any context. Obviously context helps it's a novel. But so as they're driving, he says, "Now as we passed, I swiveled to look at the post, half expecting to see something special about it. The ground around it bleached, maybe, or some other indication that I had taken a stand there. There was nothing of that sort, of course, but an inhuman coldness touched me. My stomach clenched, and we were past. The highway shrank to 2 lanes, and we were in the country. The change was not gradual. You could have stopped the car and got out at the exact point where suburbia ended and the redneck South began. I would like to have done that, to see what the sense of it would be. There was a motel, then a weed field, and then on both sides, Clabber Girl came out of hiding, leaping onto the sides of barns. 666 and Black Drought began to swirl, and Jesus began to save. We hummed along, borne with the inverted canoe on a long tide of patent medicines and religious billboards. From such a trip, you would think that the South did nothing but dose itself and sing gospel songs. You would think that the bowels of the Southerner were forever clamped shut, that he could not open and let natural process flow through him, but needed one purgative after another in order to make it to church. If you've ever driven down the interstate or an old highway, it sounds like an old highway. If you've ever driven down an old highway, particularly in the South, but I imagine many places, out of the city into the country, you know, there is that one point where like it just kind of, all of a sudden, you're out of town. It is very clear that you are out of town and you're just on the road. There's billboards, advertisements for all sorts of things, telling you you're going to go to hell, that Jesus saves, telling you there's a bathroom in a gas station 2 miles away. And kind of the way that he like just beautifully writes to paint that strange picture of the South. Is just cool. See if we can find something else. I don't really want to spoil anything. I think a lot of people already kind of have an idea about this book, if they've even seen either seen the movie or probably been exposed to kind of some of the content from the movie. or the book. I have not seen the movie. I doubt it's anywhere near as good as this book is. Because just the way that Dickey writes about man and nature and the nature of man is just damned good. And this book will either make you want to grab your 3 best friends and go on a canoe trip immediately, or never go into the woods or on the water again. I don't think there's a hell of a lot of in between there. I don't know. So there's another part that is fairly early on in the novel, before they get into the water, and they've like stopped at this like gas station or country store. I don't remember exactly which, but he's like, oh, my cousin Lonnie over here, or brother Lonnie, I don't remember once again which one. It's been a while since I've read it, but grabs Lonnie and he says, you can play. And so one of the guys has his like guitar with him, and Lonnie plays the banjo. And so this guy named Drew, who's one of the ones on the trip, says, Drew started in on Wildwood Flower, picking it out at a medium tempo and not putting in many runs. Lonnie dragged on the rubber bands and slipped the capo up. Drew started to come on with the volume, and Martin boomed out and over the dusty filling station. I'd never heard him play so well, and I really began to listen deeply, moved as an unmusical person is moved when he sees that the music is meant. After a little while, it sounded as though Drew were adding another kind of sound to every note he played. A higher, tinny echo of the melody, and then it broke in on me that this was the banjo, played so softly and rightly that it sounded like Drew's own fingering. I could not see Drew's face, but the back of his neck was sheer joy. He eased out of the melody and played rhythm, and Lonnie took it. He emphasized nothing, but through everything he played there was a lovely unimpeded flowing that seemed endless. His hands, full of long scratches, took time. The fingers moved only slightly, about like those of a good typist. The music was just there. Drew came back in the new key, and they finished writing together. For the last couple of minutes of the song, Drew slid down and went over and stood beside Lonnie. They put the instruments together and leaned close to each other in the pose you see vocal groups and phony folk singers take on TV programs, and something rare and unrepeatable took hold of the way I saw them. The demented country kid and the big-faced decent city man, the minor civic leader and hedge clipper. I was glad for Drew's sake we had come. Just this incident would be plenty to satisfy him. The idea in there that like something like music can bring 2 very, very different people together, even if just for a moment, and kind of make an impact on the people that are present, is just amazing. And it's written so beautifully. If you have not read Deliverance, read Deliverance. And it's also kind of horrifying later on in the book. Like, there's a lot of beauty in this book, but there's a lot of horror in this book as well. And so I can't think of much of a better time to read it than right here around Halloween. So there's my 2 cents, and I hope that you will pick up this book and enjoy it as much as I did. So there you go.